We got it all. We got it all. Everything has been taken out. Okay? Because the focus is on the tumor. Once we get rid of the tumor, fine, you are good. And then they say, go. Let's begin to check you. Come back every three months, every 6 months. And then 2 years down the road, another tumor begins to grow. They say, oh, the thing has come back. There's a recurrence. Why? Because they only got rid of the tumor. They didn't do anything about the terrain. And the terrain is like the soil. The tumor is like a plant that is growing on the soil. So as you're trying to uproot the plant, you must also change the configuration of the terrain so that it will not support tumor growth in the future. There are parameters in the body that must also change through diet, through lifestyle, through your thought processes that will now change the parameters of the terrain so that in the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, even if cancer wants to grow, the body environment will be hostile to the cancer and it won't be able to grow again. That way you can prevent recurrence. I hope I'm making sense. Now, rather than merely scanning the body to find to find where a tumor is developing in order to surgically remove the tumor or burn it off with radiotherapy or poison it out with chemotherapy, okay? Wouldn't it be wiser to start doing something to change the environment or terrain of the body from the one that favors or supports cancer growth to one that is hostile to cancer growth? Now, usually, it is our diet, our lifestyle, our thought patterns, our psycho-emotional states that combine to define the ecology of our body environment. Now, by the way, some of the scanning equipment that are used to detect cancer, such as mammograms, like I mentioned earlier, releases, ionizing radiation into the body that themselves can cause cancer in the future. Now, according to Dr. Otto Warburg, he was a German Nobel Prize winner. He won the Nobel Prize 2 times in the 1930s, a very famous scientist. He was the one that, discovered the fact that an oxygen-deprived environment, if the terrain of a person's body is oxygen-deprived, it makes the body conducive for cancer development. In fact, that particular discovery won him the Nobel Prize. But a well-oxygenated body is hostile to cancer development. So one of the things to do, I will summarize everything towards the end. I call it programming the terrain. Programming the terrain. You program the terrain of your environment, you modulate and regulate and modify certain parameters in your environment, such as your body pH, so that the cleanliness of your body, and many other parameters, so that even if cancer wants to grow, the soil will not support the growth. Okay? The pH of the body, for example. So we must do much more than merely detecting cancers and removing cancers early. We must work to transform the terrain of our body as well through appropriate dietary and lifestyle adjustments. Now, in my personal opinion, early detection of the factors that initiate and promote cancers is more important than early detection of the cancer itself, because the environment of the body is a precursor to the tumor. Thus, the environment of the tumor is more important than the tumor itself. Of course, I'm not saying that we should ignore the tumor. That's not what I'm saying. I'm only saying that, the environment should attract our primary and priority attention. Prevention is the best, while early detection and early intervention is only a distant second. A third option of doing nothing until things get out of hand is actually a suicide mission. So the bottom line is that we must all do whatever we can do within our powers to prevent tumors from developing in the first place. And if any has already developed, we must do everything we can to get rid of the tumor, and at the same time, institute a plan or process to change our body ecology by changing our diet and our lifestyle to transform the terrain of the body. If you didn't hear anything from me so far, just keep remembering tumor and terrain, tumor and terrain. While you are dealing with the tumor, you must be programming the terrain as well. 2 things you must be doing simultaneously. But unfortunately, the primary thing that you see being done in most oncology departments is they are just targeting the tumor, whereas the terrain is even being further devastated All right. Now, a dirty neighborhood will definitely attract rodents. It will attract flies and other insects, while a clean neighborhood is not attractive to these pests. So in the same way, a dirty, toxic, oxygen-deprived, and immune-compromised body will attract diseases of all sorts, especially cancer. So my answer to the question, are cancers not hereditary diseases? Because some people say, well, you are saying terrain. I mean, what about genes? This thing they say is genetic. You know, the moment you inherit it from your parents, it's there forever. You can't do anything about it. Yeah. Is cancer not a hereditary disease? My answer to this question is both a yes and a careful no. A yes, because some women, for example, are more genetically at higher risk for developing breast cancer than others because they inherited a mutated gene from their parents. You know, the BRCA1 gene, the BRCA1, BRCA2 genes. When a woman inherits those mutated genes from their parents, such women are at higher risk. But it does not mean that they will automatically develop cancer, because the genes are non-automatic genes. Non-automatic genes are genes that do not automatically express. They only express when they are triggered. So even though a woman may carry those genes that can predispose her to developing breast cancer, if she does not trigger those genes, they can remain dormant there in her body till she clocks 100, and she will never develop cancer. Okay? Because it's only about 25% of the genes in our body that will express automatically, irrespective of what we do. The remaining 75% of our genes only express when they are triggered. Okay? And those triggers are the things that I have been mentioning about the terrain of the body. So once we understand the dynamics, we are able to do a lot to prevent cancer. Now, whereas we may not be able to do anything about our genetic makeup, it is certain that we can do so much in regulating the environment of our genes. Now, the simple illustration I normally give to people is, if you have dry beans at home, uncooked beans, you can put it in a plastic jar and keep it in your deep freezer. And for the next 1 year, it will remain exactly like that. But take that same beans from your freezer, just take a few pieces and go to your backyard, dig the ground and bury it in the ground and let rain begin to fall on it. Within 1 week, what happens to those beans? They will germinate and begin to produce leaves. The same beans that remain dormant for 1 year, in 1 week begins to germinate. What is the difference? Is it the beans that has changed? No, the beans has not changed. What has changed is the environment. The environment of the freezer is not conducive for those beans to germinate and grow. But when you take it to the soil at your backyard, the environment of the soil is very conducive. It will begin to germinate and produce fruit. It's the same thing with our genes. When your genes are inside your body, if your body is not conducive, those genes will not germinate. They will not express. But once you make your body conducive, and what are the things that make the body conducive? These are the triggers, your hormones. That's why you must balance your hormones. If you have hormonal imbalance, you must balance it. Because most female cancers, like breast cancer, ovarian cancer, cancers of the womb, uterine cancers, most of them are driven by hormones, particularly estrogen. So if you have hormonal imbalance, you already have a trigger there. You have a trigger switched on. So do everything to balance your hormones. I don't have enough time to teach how to balance your hormones here, but I'm sure Tabitha is there. They can coach you on how to balance your hormones. Avocado pear, by the way, is a very good fruit for balancing your hormones. Tiger nut is very good for balancing your hormones. Then your immune system is another environmental factor that you need to balance. Now, cancer can only develop in a body that is immunocompromised. When your immunity is weak, that's when cancer develops. When your immunity is strong, cancer cannot develop in your body. The same thing with your pH. When your body is acidic, it's very conducive for cancer. But when your body is well modulated, of course, there are parts of your body that must be acidic, like your gastric juices in your stomach to digest protein, your spinal cord fluid, all of those are acidic. But essentially, the remaining parts of your body must be alkaline. And when your body is in an acidic state, you do your urinalysis, you check your urine, and your urine pH is very low. Your urine pH is 4 point something, 5 point something. Your body is too acidic. And that is a very fertile soil for chronic diseases, especially cancer, to develop. And these are things that are under your control. You can modulate them. You can modulate your hormones. You can modulate your immune system. You can modulate your body pH. Then body oxygenation and oxygen utilization. If your body is oxygen deprived, the terrain becomes conducive for cancer to grow. But when your body is well oxygenated and your cells are utilizing oxygen well, it becomes more difficult for cancer to thrive. Same thing with toxins. When the body is very toxic, all kinds of toxic metals, heavy metals, mercury, lead, cadmium, arsenic, and all of those toxic metals, when they're in the body, and other forms of toxins, they make the body very conducive, the terrain very conducive for cancer to thrive. But the moment you start detoxifying and start removing all these toxins from your body, you make it very difficult for cancer to thrive. Same thing with stress. Same thing with your diet and your lifestyle. And then your physical activities. Are you sedentary or are you active? These are things that help to modulate the environment of the body for cancer prevention and chronic disease prevention. According to the World Health Organization, some statistics here, it is expected that annual cancer cases will rise from 14 million as of 2012 to 22 million per year by the year 2032. So are we winning the cancer war? If the incidence of cancer is increasing for almost doubling between 2012 and 2032, within 20 years, the incidence of cancer per year all over the world is almost doubling. Now, it's estimated that by the year 2025, next year, 15.3 million new cancer cases are expected to be diagnosed each year if the trend continues unabated, unarrested. Now, what causes cancer? What are the causes of cancer? I have explained the terrain, environment. Now, the terrain doesn't cause the cancer, but the terrain can accommodate the cancer and allow the cancer to thrive. Okay, but what are the things that can cause cancer now? Cancer has multiple interacting causes and many interdependent factors. At least 33 different factors are known so far, and there are many of them yet unknown that can cause cancer in various combinations. Now, usually cancer arises from one single cell that becomes, an aberrant cell. And then it continues to transform into a tumor through a multi-stage process, as I mentioned before. Now, in the past 30 years or so, the International Agency on Research for Research on Cancer, which is an arm of the World Health Organization, has evaluated the cancer-causing potential of more than 900 likely candidates. In other words, substances and different things in our environment that can cause cancer. They have looked at about 900 things that can cause cancer. And they have categorized all these 900 into 5 groups. Okay? Any one that they put in group 1 means that it is cancer-causing to humans. It's carcinogenic to humans. No doubt. It has been established. Any carcinogen that is classified as group 1, it can cause cancer. When it is put in group 2A, it is probably carcinogenic to humans. Group 2B, possibly carcinogenic to humans. Group 3, unclassifiable as to whether it can cause cancer in human beings. And then if it is group 4, probably not carcinogenic to humans. Now, changes that lead to cancer are the result of the interaction between a person's genetic factors and then 3 categories of external agents. Now, your genetic makeup is your internal agent that can predispose a person to cancer. And then there are external agents, something coming from outside of your body into your body, and that can cause cancer, okay? Those things that can come from outside into the body to cause cancer, there are 3 categories, okay? The first one are physical carcinogens, then we have chemical carcinogens, then we have biological carcinogens. Now, physical carcinogens are things like ionizing radiation, all the things that are causing radiation in the environment, okay, they can cause cancer. Then chemicals like asbestos, like, toxins, even from moldy granite. If you buy granite from the supermarket, I tell people, please, don't buy granite from the supermarket that has been lying on the shelf for the past 9 months, even though the expiry date still remains 3 months. Granite on the shelf for 9 months. It must have developed some mold. You may not see it with your naked eyes, but it's there, okay? And that mold, if you consume it, it contains a toxin that is known as aflatoxin. aflatoxin is probably the worst toxin that a person can be exposed to, and it can cause liver cancer. Liver cancer just by eating granite, moldy granite, that is. So that will be a chemical carcinogen. Then we have biological carcinogen. That is biological agents, microorganisms and parasites. Like people who have the HPV virus, human papilloma virus, that can lead to cervical cancer, for example. People who have HIV, that can lead to Kaposi sarcoma, a type of skin cancer. Okay. People that have hepatitis B, hepatitis C, that can lead to liver cancer. Okay. And people that have the H. pylori bacteria in their stomach that is causing stomach ulcer can also progress 10 years, 20 years down the road. If you don't deal with it now, it can progress to cancer of the stomach. All right. Now, about 40% of bladder cancers in most parts of Africa is caused by a parasite. And that parasite is a waterborne parasite. And the parasite is introduced into the water by snails. Snails. They are the carriers of that parasite. And they can cause bladder cancer. Of course, bladder cancer in other parts of the world is caused by other things apart from this. But in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, the greatest cause, 50% or 40% of bladder cancer cases is caused by this parasite from snails. Now, cancers that are related to infectious agents are cervical cancer, liver cancer, Kaposi sarcoma, urinary bladder cancers. These are the types of cancers that are caused by microorganisms, viruses or bacteria or fungi or parasites. And they are more common in poor countries, developing countries, such as sub-Saharan Africa. Now, in areas where these parasites from snails are free, the other thing that can cause their own cancers are smoking and industrial chemicals, like chlorinated water, for example. You know, people who drink chlorinated water can also develop bladder cancer. And that's the cause of bladder cancer in places like in the Western world, more than in Africa. Now, according to the WHO, around 1/3 of cancer deaths are due to the 5 leading behavioral and dietary risks. You know, high body mass index, when somebody is obese and you're not monitoring your weight, it can increase your risk of cancer. If you don't consume a lot of fruits and vegetables, it can increase your risk of cancer. If you don't do physical exercise, you are sedentary, it can increase your risk of developing cancer. If you are a tobacco smoker, it can increase your risk of cancer. If you're an alcohol use, you use alcohol, it can increase your risk of cancer. And it doesn't only mean those who drink alcoholic beverages. So even if you use alcohol-based mouthwash, it can cause oral cancer, cancer of the mouth. When you use it for years, you know, alcohol-based mouthwash, you need to watch out for that as well. Now, the WHO made a press release in the year 2015, 9 years ago, through their agency, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, which is an agency of the WHO. And in that release in 2015, that is press release number 204. It was released on 26 October 2015. And I quote, they said, processed meat was classified as carcinogenic to humans group 1. Don't forget the grouping I gave to you earlier. Group 1 means this one, there's no doubt about it. It has been confirmed, it is established that it actually causes cancer in human beings. And so they put processed meat in category 1 carcinogen. And so what are processed meat? Corned beef, bacon, sausage, hot dog, you name them. Those are things that people love to eat because they are tasty. They contain a lot of nitrites. And the WHO says these things are class 1 cancer-causing agents. But you won't see this on the front page of newspapers. Except you're somebody who has this you know, sniffing nose to sniff things out. You may never come across this kind of information. But it's there at the website of the World Health Organization. And yet, these things are not banned in countries. That's one of the reasons I say our governments are very insincere. You look at our country, Nigeria, for example, where I live, and many other countries of the world for that matter. You see the tobacco companies will come, and you see the president of the country going to cut the tape to open tobacco factory. And yet they will say, so smokers are liable to die young. Is there any sincerity in that? If you know that this thing can kill your citizens, why is the president going there to endorse it? These are the signs of insincerity that we see all over the place, and why we are not winning the war on cancer. Now, let's continue with causes of cancer. I'll just rush through this one because it's a very long one. According to this author, Burton Goldberg, I actually have the book on my bookshelf right in front of me. It's bigger than a Bible, just talking about cancer alone. Burton Goldberg identified about 30 different factors that can cause cancer. I will run through them very quickly. One is ultraviolet rays of the sun, radiation from cell phones, telecommunication mats, power lines, mammograms, x-rays, radiotherapy, and what have you. Nuclear radiation, you know, when there is a nuclear accident in nuclear power plants, like we had in Hiroshima, we had in Chernobyl, and all those other locations. And then chronic electromagnetic field exposure, geopathic stress, and then we have irradiated food, sick building syndrome, pesticides, toxins like asbestos, you know, antiperspirants with a lot of you know, toxic metals in them. And when you rub antiperspirants under your armpit, you're actually blocking your sweat pores so that you don't sweat. And when you lock in the sweat, you don't realize that the sweat that is coming out from your armpit, they are bringing waste products out of your body to make your body clean on the inside. But once you block it and you don't perspire anymore, then your body will look for a warehouse to go and store those toxins you are not allowing to come out. And the nearest warehouse, the nearest fatty tissue to your armpit are your breasts. And so it will be depositing them in the breast. And before you know it, it can cause DNA damage of the cells in the breast. And then it will initiate the process of breast cancer. All right, so antiperspirants are not necessarily necessary, okay? Then we have household cleaners, and then we have food toxins such as aflatoxin from moldy groundnut, polluted water, chlorinated water, you know, tobacco smoke, hormone therapies, oral contraceptives, a weak immunity, food additives, toxic metals like mercury, arsenic, and lead, dental factors like root canals, nerve interferences fields, diet and nutritional deficiencies, toxic emotions, chronic stress, and depressed thyroid function. These are the 30 different causes of cancer as identified by Goldberg in his book. You know, intestinal toxicity, biological carcinogens, I've mentioned that before, viruses, bacteria, fungi, parasites, then blocked detoxification pathways, free radicals, cellular oxygen deficiency, cellular terrain, oncogenes, genetic predisposition, miasms, and what have you. Now, statistics show that more than 80% of heart disease is related to diet and lifestyle. More than 90% of type 2 diabetes is related to diet and lifestyle. More than 70% of stroke and more than 70% of colon cancer are all related to diet and lifestyle, which means that if we can control our diet and lifestyle, we can actually prevent 70% of the cancers that afflict humanity. Okay, now let me talk about turbo cancers. We are now starting to hear more and more about turbo cancers. I don't know how many of you have heard about turbo cancers. This is a term that just showed up in 2021, 2022. I never heard of turbo cancers until this time. And so my antennas went up. What happened just prior to 2021? We had COVID and then COVID vaccines. And suddenly turbo cancers are showing up. Where is it coming from? Turbo cancers are cancers that are diagnosed today and maybe at stage 1. And within 2 to 3 months, it has already advanced to stage 4. That's why they call them turbo cancers. It's as if it's on turbo flight. It's as if it's on a supersonic flight. Typically, when the person is diagnosed with cancer at stage 0 or stage 1, it might take 1 or 2 or 3 years, even if the person is going to die, before they die. But turbo cancers kill in less than 6 months. They will not see any sign, no nothing. It will just show up, bam. And before you know it, the person is gone. Now, I personally have no doubt in my mind that mRNA vaccines contribute to the development of turbo cancers. Again, everybody may not agree with me, but that's my personal position so far, based on my studies. And apart from turbo cancers, other health problems being associated with the COVID vaccines are blood clots, you know, pulmonary embolism, DVT, and elevated D-dimer, you know, tests, and myocarditis, pericarditis, strokes, and all kinds of different things accompanying mRNA vaccination. Now, even if you don't agree with me on that note, let me share a thought with you. Professor Peter McCullough is a medical doctor. He has a master's degree in public health, so he's a specialist in infectious diseases, including COVID. He's also a consultant cardiologist, and is the most published medical scientists alive today, the most published medical doctor, medical scientist alive today, Professor Peter McCullough of the USA. Now, he has been shouting from the rooftop that those who have taken the COVID vaccines, they will have a lot of spike proteins in their body, and they need to take at least these 3 supplements to detox their body from the spike protein. Even if you don't agree with me and you don't agree with Professor McCullough, if you have taken any mRNA vaccine, I suggest that you take these 3 supplements to detox yourself, even if you don't have any problem. And I pray you won't have any problem. Nattokinase. This is just from fermented food. They are not pharmaceuticals. They are supplements. 2,000 IU twice a day. And then bromelain. Bromelain is from pineapple. It's an enzyme from pineapple. 500 milligrams every day. And then curcumin. Curcumin is from turmeric. You take 500 milligrams twice every day. And Professor McCullough says if you take this thing for at least 6 months, although he advises that you take it for 1 year, but minimum 3 months, but ideally for 1 year. If you take, he said, it will detox your body and remove all the excess spike protein in your system occasioned by the mRNA COVID vaccine, so that at least you can prevent any untoward, outcome in the future. Even if you don't agree, these things are food. Please take them. Take nattokinase, fermented food. Take bromelain from pineapple, and take curcumin. They are available as supplements. And it's very simple. So it's not medicine per se, but they can help to detox your system of spike proteins. Now, there are things that we can do to modify our body terrain, and those are the things that are listed here. Our diet, those who are smoking to stop smoking, you can mitigate hereditary factors and what have you. I am flying now because of time. Now, the risk factors that are under our control, contribute to 70% of cancers. The ones that are beyond our control, only 30% of cancers. So if all of us agree to deal with the ones under our control, we can reduce the incidence of cancer globally by as much as 70%. Now, there's a myth that I call a highly propagated myth. I have alluded to it earlier. When your doctor tells you your diet has nothing to do with your cancer, in other words, the food you are eating or the things you are avoiding, they don't contribute to your cancer and they cannot help you to fight your cancer. You see, foods that are high in refined sugar, refined sodium, and they contain a lot of unhealthy fats have actually been shown to contribute, to the development of cancer and the growth of cancer. Conversely, when you eat a diet of organic food with vitamins and nutrients, they can help to mitigate cancer at the end of the day. There are cancer-fighting foods. And this is where I want you to pay a lot of attention, because this is my specific area as a nutritionist. All right? Cancer-fighting foods. Each cancer-fighting food exerts a certain effect on the body when you eat them. And I am just chronicling here the effects that cancer-fighting food can have on your body. Some cancer-fighting food will give you a calming effect. For example, when somebody is given a cancer diagnosis, the person becomes nervous, the person becomes anxious, the person becomes agitated, the person becomes afraid, the person may even become depressed. So you are not just dealing with cancer now, you're also dealing with a mental health issue along with the cancer. So there are certain things you must recommend to the person to calm the person down. So there are foods that help, or herbs that help, or supplements that help to calm people down, all right? The exact calming effect. And then sedative effect. Some of them have insomnia. Once they are diagnosed, they can't sleep again. And once you don't sleep well with a cancer diagnosis, you are going to be aggravating the problem. So you also have to give food that make that person to sleep better. Things like celery, for example. All right? Then things to exert diuretic effect, so let the person be able to urinate properly. Things that have astringent effect, to shrink. Things that can exert antioxidant effect, to eliminate free radicals, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, selenium, glutathione, all of those things. You just pick one in each category, okay? Things that have analgesic effect, those who are feeling pain relief for them. Energy boosting effect, something that, because cancer can drain energy and make people fatigued, so you need to boost their energy. Then antimicrobial effect. If the cancer is caused by a biological agent, you also need to deal with the biological agent, a fungus, a virus, a bacterium, a parasite, whatever it is. Then antiparasitic effect, things that can exert, weight management effect. Some of them will lose weight, they need to gain weight, all right? Then anti-inflammatory effect, food that exert anti-angiogenic effect. Angiogenesis is the tendency for tumors to grow new blood vessels, to suck nutrients from all directions. Then the individual is getting leaner and leaner. The cancer is getting fatter and fatter because it's growing new roots, new blood vessels to suck. So there are certain food that can block the tumor from growing new blood vessels. Those are called anti-angiogenic foods. Things like shark liver oil, shark cartilage, flaxseed oil. You know, all of these things have anti-angiogenic effect. Then anti-metastatic effect. You begin to give certain things to that individual that will not allow the cancer to spread, because the tendency for cancer is to spread to other parts of the body. If you give things like there is proline, there's lysine, there is rosehip oil, there is vitamin C, there's grapeseed. All of those things have anti-metastatic effect. They will not allow the cancer to spread to other parts of the body. They keep it contained in one location. Then something that will give immune modulating effect to boost immunity, something to balance hormone, something to detoxify the body, something to alkalize the body, something to oxygenate the body, something to, you know, attack the cancer itself, have cytotoxic effect, anti-neoplastic effect, and many more. So whether it is food or supplements that are being recommended to the cancer patient, they are food items and supplements that will be exerting all of these different effects. That's why in natural cancer treatment, you see that so many things are recommended. And someone will say, you want me to be taking 12 different supplements at the same time? I say, yes, because each one is doing a different thing. Each one is doing a different thing. There is no one food or herb or supplement that can boast of being able to cure or reverse cancer, because no one food can exert all the effects that we want, the ones that we have highlighted. That's why when I hear people say, oh, soursop will cure cancer, I laugh. Oh, when you take spring onions, it will cure prostate cancer, I laugh. You know why I laugh? Not because soursop is not good, not because spring onion is not good, but alone on their own, I doubt if they can do all these things I have listed. Soursop will contribute its own, okay? Spring onion will contribute its own, okay? Any other, so out of all the different effects I have listed here, which one is soursop doing there? I know that soursop has anti-neoplastic effect. Okay, that's the second to the last item here on this screen. Anti-neoplastic effect. The cytotoxic is a cytotoxic agent. So it is contributing its own quota. But I doubt if soursop also can handle weight management, whether it can handle anti-metastatic, whether it can detox the body, whether it can alkalize the body. It may not be doing all of those things. So in addition to soursop, there must be a number of other things that you're also doing. But when you stick to just one item, there is no magic bullet. That's the point I'm making. And the Holy Bible tells us here about food regarding our health. Why spend your money on food that does not give you strength? Which means there are certain foods that will give you strength. Why pay for food that does you no good? Which means there are certain foods that will do you good. He says, listen to me, and you will eat what is good, and then you will enjoy the finest of food. All right. So one of the easiest things that people fighting cancer need to do is to address their diet. And a rainbow diet is the most helpful diet in fighting cancer. That's a diet that is rich in something red, something orange color, something yellow, something blue, something green. And the best rainbow food is your vegetable salad. Tomato is red, carrot is orange in color, your celery, your lettuce, those are green, and then different colors, your rainbow food. Different cancer fighting foods can play a role in fighting one or more steps in the multi-step cancer process. Now, so good nourishment is a crucial weapon in the fight against cancer and any illness for that matter. Good cancer nutrition can be vital in increasing a person's personal odds of survival. Now, there was a study that was done by the American Cancer Society in the year 2012, and it stated, and I quote, they said, overwhelming evidence exists that diet and exercise will increase survival and even prevent a cancer from recurring. Now, cancer has certain characteristics, and when you understand those characteristics, you can use those characteristics to defeat cancer. Number one, cancer has rapid growth. So you eat foods that have anti-tumoral effect. Cancer develops, new blood vessels, angiogenesis. So you eat food or supplements that will block angiogenesis. Cancer, has a potential for lifespan because it refuses to die. So you give food that will induce apoptosis, that will make the cancer cells to die. Cancer can metastasize, spread to other locations. So you eat anti-metastatic food. Cancer generates energy through fermentation. So you oxygenate the body to counteract that. Cancer thrives on a low oxygen environment. So oxygenate the body. Cancer loves acidity. So alkalize the body. Cancer thrives in a toxic environment. So detoxify the body. Cancer thrives when the immune system is weak. So boost the immunity. Cancer cells love sugar, so avoid refined sugar. Cancer cells are primitive cells. They are not properly differentiated. They are not fully differentiated, so they cannot handle anything outside of glucose. So you can do hypothermia to kill them off because they are not as resistant to heat as normal cells. That's why infrared sauna and such other hypothermic processes and protocols are very useful. Then ketogenic diets done in a short while can also actually make cancer cells to die. Because cancer cells are primitive, they cannot use ketone bodies for energy. They can only use glucose. So if you deprive your body of glucose for about 6 weeks, and you're only supplying ketones by eating the keto diet, then you can actually starve your cancer indirectly. Now, cancer prevention strategies should stem from our understanding of the causes of cancer and addressing each cause intentionally and intelligently. That's my word on Bible there. The terrain of the body is more critical than genes, since it is the terrain that determines whether or not the gene will express. Therefore, our efforts should be geared more towards maintaining a terrain that will not trigger the bad genes in our body. Now, GMO foods have been found to also contribute to the development of cancer. Professor Eric Seralini of France, of the University of Siena in France, in the year 2012, 12 years ago, conducted an experiment where he divided a group of rats into 2 groups. He fed one group with genetically modified food and another group with organic grains. And after his experiment, virtually all the rats in the GMO group developed tumors. You can see the photos on the screen. Yet, I still have friends that are still arguing with me till today that, GMO food is good. There's nothing wrong with it. It is the latest science. We should embrace it and all of that. But this man did an experiment and nobody has countered the experiment to date. They'll say, okay, we try to repeat it, but we didn't get the same result. Now, let me conclude by saying 1 or 2 things to those who may have already been diagnosed with cancer. If you have already been diagnosed with cancer, I want to offer you the following tips. Number 1, know that cancer is beatable. Number 2, be ready to fight to win. Number 3, work with a team of knowledgeable, nutritionally minded, and functional integrative therapists and professionals to coach you along the way. And Tabitha is doing a good job in that direction. Number 4, know that cancer treatment could be very expensive. It's not something, it doesn't cost kobo, it costs a lot of money, but the Lord will provide. Number 5, can we all mute our microphones, please? Can we mute our microphones, please? Hello, can we mute our microphones, please? Number 5, understand that cancer treatment is not a sprint, but a long-haul race. Some people think that, once they get cancer and then they start doing treatment within 6 weeks, they are out. Cancer treatments will last for nothing less than 2 years, whether it is conventional or alternative or integrative. Even when the tumor is no longer there, there are things you must continue to do for at least 2 years to make sure that it doesn't come back, even after you have been given a clear. And that's the mistake that is always made in conventional treatment. Once a person has been treated and all tests reveal that there's no more cancer, they say, oh, you are in remission. You can go, you are fine. And they don't tell the person what the person needs to be doing to prevent it from recurring. You must continue to do things, your diet, your lifestyle, and many other things to ensure that in the next 2 years, it doesn't come back. So understand that it's not a sprint, it's a long-haul race. Number 6, be ready to make radical dietary and lifestyle adjustments. And number 7, look to God. He's your great physician. All right? So take special actions to deal with either cancer or other degenerative diseases, chronic diseases. This last Sunday, I shared these tips with our church, and I just decided to smuggle it in here for you. 4 key injunctions to prevent or reverse chronic disease. Number 1 is there are things you must terminate in your life. There are things you must perpetuate in your life. There are things you must attenuate in your life. And there are things you must inaugurate. And let me quickly run over them in the next 2 minutes. What do I mean by things to terminate? Anything you are eating, drinking, or doing that is compromising your health, you must terminate them. Stop them. Stop taking refined sugar. Stop taking alcohol. Stop taking tobacco. Stop exposing yourself to unnecessary radiation. You know, anything that is going to compromise your health, terminate them. That's how to prevent or even reverse chronic diseases. Terminate. Number 2, there are things you must attenuate. In other words, things you must reduce. You can't stop them, but you must reduce them. Okay? Reduce them to an acceptable level. Whatever can harm your health, if you do them in excess, reduce them. Okay? For example, we all need to walk, but when you overwork, then it will lead to stress, and stress can then lead to disease. So you have to manage your stress very well, manage your schedule very well, reduce it. Okay? Number 3, perpetuate. There are things you are currently doing now, and they are helping you. Don't stop. Perpetuate them. Let it continue. Maybe you started exercising for the last 30 days, and you have found out that, oh, this exercise is helping me. Don't stop. Oh, continue. Perpetuate. And then number 4, there are things you know will help you, but you have not started doing them yet. You know that exercise will help you, for example, but you have not started. Please inaugurate it. Start it. That's what I mean. Start regular exercise. Start eating fruits and vegetables. Start drinking adequate amount of water. Start managing your stress. Start sleeping well. All of these things are things you need to start. When you do that, what you are doing is you are doing upstream intervention. And that will make sure that downstream things will go well. Now, you might say, all these things are too many. I can't do all of them. Well, pick 1 or 2 or 3 that you can do and start with that. Like the 30-day challenge that they're talking about, there are a number of things you need to do there. So people will say, no, I can't do all those things. They are too overwhelming. Just pick 2 or 3 or 4 that you can do. You see, Edmund Burke was the Surgeon General of the USA at the time. And he said, nobody made a greater mistake than he who did nothing because he could only do a little. All right. So in closing, let your food be your medicine and let your medicine be your food. Any oncologist that tells a cancer patient to eat whatever they like is professionally reckless and irresponsible, in my view. He that takes medicine and neglects diet wastes the time of his doctor. It's an ancient Chinese proverb. Every time you eat and drink, you are either feeding disease or fighting it, according to Heather Morgan. Eat your food as your medicine. Otherwise, you will have to eat your medicine as your food. That's from Ratan Tata. There's no health without a good diet. It's impossible, according to Dr. David Minkoff. He's the medical director of Life Works Wellness Center in Florida. When diet is wrong, medicine is of no use. And when diet is correct, medicine is of no need. It's an ancient Ayurvedic proverb. To eat is a necessity, but to eat intelligently is an art, according to Francois de la Rochefort. Now, the food you eat can either be the safest and most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison, according to Dr. Ann Wigmore. Now, many forms of cancer are preventable to a large extent. Cancer is just a word. It's not a sentence, definitely not a death sentence. Cancer is both preventable and beatable. This is attested to by many cancer survivors around the world. Many have survived deadly cancer, while many have died of ordinary malaria. So the sickness is not the problem. The disease is not the problem. How you handle it is the problem. Being informed is our first line of defense in the prevention and cure of cancer and all other diseases for that matter. Making the right decisions based on facts increases our ability to prevent or even beat cancer. Prevention is the best, while early detection with early intervention is a distant second. A third option of doing nothing until things get out of hand is a suicide mission. These are some references that materials that I used in preparing these slides. I want to invite you to join me every Monday, 8 p.m. West African time on Expose with Tony Akiemi on both Facebook and YouTube every Monday. It's an ongoing continuous wellness education, free of charge. We also have an institute, the Rafa Institute of Healthy Living. That's our website in case you want to enroll to undertake some of our courses. Everything is virtual and you can do it at the comfort of your home. You can contact Maria or David in case you need some help. That's their contact information on the screen. You may want to take a screenshot of that so you can contact them when necessary. Now, my daughter and I authored this book on defeating diabetes. My daughter is a medical doctor I am a nutritionist, so we collaborated and wrote this book on how to defeat diabetes. This is the second edition in the market that just came out in January this year. And that's the retail price. Even if you don't have diabetes, you need to read it so that you won't have diabetes, because it's not just for reversing diabetes, it's also for preventing diabetes. And distributors who want to distribute, you can call that number and David can advise on wholesale pricing for you. All right, if you can unmute your microphone, we can all read this poem together. This is my last slide. Let's read this together. Wrote this poem many years ago. 1, 2, go.
At 50,
I shall not be slowly.
I shall be at the 50.
Shall not be
Slowly.
Lord, I shall be strong.
But I shall
not be empty.
Take some power for
I
excellence.
shall not be empty.
I shall not be overweight.
I shall not be overweight. Spiritual heavyweight. 90, I shall not be a Nancy,
100.
a Nunu. 100, I shall not be haunted.
Enjoy robustness.
100, I shall not live the glory of the Lord. 120, I shall not be tempted by it, but we choose
all my
20 years of
all my backup selling shape was help me God. Thank you.
120.
All my you thank you.
Shall be all my shall not be silly, sickly,
Thank you, Reverend. Really
strongly.
great. Really appreciate it.
40, I shall not be empty.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. We're most grateful.
Thank you, sir. Very concise and straight to the point.
Sir, God bless you.
Thank you
very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. God
Thank you
bless
very
you.
much.
Thank
For your
you.
God bless
time.
you, sir.
Very, very,
Thank you
very
so much, sir. Very educative and enlightening.
Very grateful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the eye opener.
Amen. 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 Amen.
Bless you. Love you in Jesus' name.
Thank you, sir. We are very
Amen.
grateful. Appreciate God bless you, sir.
Amen. Amen.
Thank
Amen.
you very much, sir. God will honor you and your home, sir.
God
bless you, sir.
Very much.
Amen.
Appreciate it, sir. God, you
Amen.
keep once again, keep more to come and stronger again, sir. We still need you now.
Amen. Amen. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
All right, please, Reverend, before you go, Reverend, hello, can you hear me, Reverend, please?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, just before you go, we have.
You have been unmuted. You have been unmuted. So you have been muted. You have been muted.
Okay, am I positive now?
Yes, yes.
Please, sorry about the light situation. I'm looking like someone who's looking for a child in the manger now. But we have to, keep going as it were. All right. So I said in the course of your, lecture, we had earlier on said that we're going to give space for a couple questions. And while that was ongoing, some people did well to drop them, and I took notes of them. Number one question said, please, where can the medications be gotten? The ones you said we should use to, reduce the protein spike that was gotten from the COVID-19 vaccines. Where can those be gotten? That's number one. And then number two asked and said, how can we oxygenate our bodies? Okay. And then number three person, please ask that you should share the slide on food we should eat to, combat cancer. That's all we can take for the night, please.